Hello.
Good.
How can I help you?
Hello.
Hi, Steve.
We're back again.
Nice to see you.
We're a little early.
Yeah, let me see if Mr. Riggs can get it started right now, because we do have another one at 2 o'clock. So I'll get him.
Okay.
Double check.
Hi. Hi. How old are you, young man?
I'm 15.
What, 15? 15, yeah, good.
How you doing?
Doing well. You're a granddad,
Yeah.
okay? And what is your interest in learning how to fly? That's something you've always wanted to do, and there's really no one thing?
It's just to give him the experience to see if he likes it or not,
Yeah,
that's all.
okay. Hey, today you're going to do a first flight lesson. I'm going to go over a little bit about how we teach flying, how it's different than other learning processes, and yet there's a lot of things the same. Try to give you a basic on how to succeed as a flight student, and we'll go from there. Your flight is scheduled at 2?
Yes.
Okay, is Frank
It's with me,
available?
though, so I'll go free flight.
Huh? Oh, you're available?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, super, so we don't have to wait.
I do. I'm Frank.
Hi.
And
This
nice
is
to
going
meet
to be
you.
your instructor.
Nice to meet you.
And so we're going to go do a briefing in here a little bit, and then we'll talk a little bit about what it's going to cost somebody, got a sponsor or whoever, And what year in school are you?
I'm a sophomore.
Okay. And we're going to tell you about a couple of youth programs you can get involved in that are very low cost and good learning experiences too. So come on in. We're going to be on this right here. And I'm going to kind of give it a turn on some. Granddad, if you want to grab that chair, you can
Thank you.
sit behind me.
We have Dad here too, okay?
Oh, you do?
Hi. How you doing?
Hi.
Jason.
Jason.
Yes, nice
Yeah,
to
why
meet
don't you
Bill.
grab a chair so you can kind of get an overview of what we're going to be teaching.
Okay.
Yeah, in my office there's a chair there you can grab.
Did both of you guys want to go up on the lesson, or it's just one of you guys?
I think probably weight-wise, we probably ought to just have the young man and one other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So did
Yeah.
you want to go up, Dad, or Brandon?
He'll go up, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I went up last time with Robert when he was here,
Okay.
so.
Where do you go to school?
I go to school at Hesperia High School.
Oh, you're from Hesperia?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Victorville, but I take
Yeah, the reason that we're here is I learned to fly here 43 years ago at Fullerton, and I
Mhm.
got my pilot's license. Not at AFI, but a place called Aviation Unlimited
Yeah, okay.
back in those days.
Right.
And so I wanted to give, he had the experience when he was 18,
Mm-hmm.
and that was in 1995, and that was this is his son, and I want to give him the same experience too.
Okay. All right. That gives us a little bit of background. Okay. That's not what I'm looking for. Aviation has changed a lot since you learned to
Oh
fly.
yeah,
Um,
I was here a couple of weeks ago, and I went up with Robert, and the main difference was back in those days, outside of the price, there were no restrictions and no control areas or anything like that.
Yeah.
Once you left the airport area, it was all VFR.
yeah, so it makes a lot of difference in the way we teach.
I'm sure it does. As a matter of fact, Matt, who we had, said the hardest thing is just doing all the air traffic controller stuff
Yeah,
now.
communications, right. Years ago, we used to get people started flying, and we didn't spend a lot of time teaching them on the ground. Okay, all the time was spent in the air. We taught people how to solo, and then taught them how to fly. And we would say, you know, if people hadn't soloed the airplane, flown by themselves when they had 8 or 10 hours of flying time, you know, maybe we should get them in a boat or something like that. But they really didn't know how to fly. They knew how to go around the pattern. Now we teach them how to fly and allow them to solo. So solo times have gone way up. So they have a lot more knowledge when they solo than we used to do. And as a result, we don't wreck as many airplanes or hurt as many people. So it's much safer than it used to be. We're going to go a little bit about how we do this. Today, what you're going to be learning about are the controls of the airplane, how we control an airplane on the ground and in the air. So we're going to show you some of those things. Our school here, I started it in 1967, actually in 1966. And there were 9 businesses on the airport when we started. And essentially, we're about the only one left. I don't know whether that makes us smarter or dumber, but it's sure a lot of fun.
Well, you didn't crash many airplanes, huh?
No, we've been pretty conservative in that area. Fullerton Airport's a great airport to learn out of for several reasons. We don't have a lot of wait time here for other traffic like civil jets, airlines, or this kind of thing. Our practice areas are close. We have an FAA operating control tower, so we learn the language of aviation. So we don't have to waste a lot of time. Also, we were working with a relatively small runway out here. It's 75 foot wide and 3,000 foot long. It's perfect for what we do. If you and I were going to go target shooting and they gave us a bullseye as big as that window, we wouldn't have to be too accurate to get a bullseye, would we? But if we had a bullseye that was the size of the back one of those pictures there, we tend to be more careful, wouldn't we?
Yeah, more cautious.
Right. So what that's kind of the way it is with runways. If you got a big wide runway and a big long runway, our natural human tendency is to say, it's not too critical whether I land near the end of the runway or 1,000 foot down the runway. I got a lot of runway. See, it's like the big target. But if we got a 3,000 foot runway and a 75 foot wide runway as opposed to a 150 foot wide, we tend to concentrate on the center line a lot more. It just our natural tendencies are to do that. So that's an advantage of learning to fly at a small airport. Besides, it's a little bit cheaper because we don't have to wait for other traffic very seldom. This is our runway right there, and you're in the building that the arrow just ran up to, and these are hangars that we own, and then we have the open tie-downs. We have 28 hangars and about 60 open tie-downs there that we own. The airport itself is owned by the city, and we have a lease with the city. You'll notice, okay, the runway here. On this end it says 24. And on this end it says 6. Are you familiar with a magnetic compass? Okay, there's north, south, east, and west. If north is either 0 or 360 degrees, south would be 180 degrees, east would be 90 degrees, west would be 270. So runways are set up and they get their name from the magnetic heading of the runway. This says 24, means that runway is headed 240 degrees, so we drop the 0. And that's the way runways are named all around the world, by their magnetic heading. So if we had a runway going straight south, it would be 18. Okay?
So 6 would be 60 degrees.
Right, yeah. Yeah. So that's how runways get their name. Another thing that's universal in aviation worldwide is that runways are marked with white paint. Okay, not other colors. taxiways are always marked with yellow, and surface roads are marked with blues or greens depending on where they are. So there's always certain markings which help us go. So we have a center line down the runway in white. Okay. There's a taxiway center line on either side of there that's yellow. So we can tell the difference between a runway and a taxiway as we approach that. That's
Taxiway is just to get out there
right.
onto the.
Right. The handsome guy on the left there is me. The ugly guy on the right is my son. So we're in business together here. I have my kids all learned to fly in soloed airplanes before they drove cars. Can you imagine that? So we have 7 licensed pilots in our family. I have grandsons that well, I have a grandson that's on his he's a Marine, he's a major, and will probably make lieutenant colonel this year. And he's on his 7th deployment to Iraq. Started out in Iraq, Afghanistan twice, Iraq twice. He's deployed on a boat now over near Syria. He flies the Osprey helicopter, which is the rotating wing, the big 12-foot propeller. We train in 152s, 172s. There's 2 different versions of the 172. The airplane is the same. The difference is the radio equipment in the airplane. Then we have a Cessna 152. The 152 is a 2-place airplane. They haven't made that airplane since 1981. They're still an excellent trainer. You can run it at a lower cost and this type of thing because it doesn't use as much gas. We don't have to pay as much for insurance. This is the 172 Skyhawk, it's called. 2 different versions. There's a older style gauging system, has a GPS in it. You know what a GPS is?
Yeah.
What is
Navigation
it?
system. It's a global
Global positioning.
system.
Okay, so we have that in there. They both have that. This is a more modern version of the system. It uses all CRT tubes. Has so much information, sometimes it's almost distracting and tends to get people drawn inside a lot more than looking outside, which is not a good thing. We have we use a Cessna pilot kit. It has all the books in it digitally. Has each lesson outlined and what you're going to be accomplishing in that lesson and everything. So we have a very detailed curriculum. Used to be when your granddad learned how to fly, every instructor did it in his own way, in his own system. There weren't any written criterias or anything else like that. Now we have some pretty good detail. So you have a study guide to go by and you get lesson assignments. We're going to give you a video presentation about what you're going to be doing today, and that's about learning the controls of the airplane. You fly model airplanes or anything like that? No. You know what a rudder is? A rudder on a boat is how they turn the boat, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of that way in the airplane. Kind of. Not exactly. Have you ever water skied? No? Well, have you ever seen boat races or anything like that?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit? Okay. Boats going straight, and they're going at a pretty high speed. And they start to turn the rudder, and they go, because this lake is flat and they're going fast, they skid out of that turn. Pretty soon then the boat banks in the water, and then the turn becomes effective. Okay. So we control an airplane, turn it in the air by banking the airplane. So you're going to learn a little bit about that. We're an FAA approved school. We give the written tests here. We have simulators. And here's the presentation.
Fuselage is the body of the airplane, and this is where everything is attached. It's also where you put everyone and their luggage. And because it's enclosed, you don't have to worry about your hair looking like it was hit by a sonic boom.
He wears a
Now, the
toupee, so he
propeller
thinks that's
pulls the airplane through the air. In fact, in the early days of aviation, propellers were called air screws because of the way they moved through the air, kind of like a screw into wood. The wings, a very important part of the aircraft I might add, the wings support the airplane in the air. And perhaps the most important thing about the wings is to make sure that you have two of them on every flight, one on each side of the airplane. And finally, the tail. Or, if you really want to impress the folks around the airport, don't call it a tail, call it the empennage. That way you'll look like you'll have 25,000 hours of flying time and 6 lunar landings under your belt. The tail, or the empennage, is located in the back part of the fuselage. And this is where the vertical stabilizer and the rudder and the horizontal stabilizer and elevator connect to the fuselage. Now let's take a look at the parts on the wing and tail that move. Those parts that let you control the airplane in flight. First is the elevator. It is attached to the horizontal stabilizer at the tail and goes up and down when you move the control wheel back and forth. Now the elevator controls the nose up or nose down position or attitude of the airplane. Moving the nose up or down is called pitching. And if you want to pitch the airplane so that the nose will go up, you pull back on the control wheel. This raises the elevator into the wind. The up elevator creates an aerodynamic force which moves the tail of the airplane down and the nose up. To pitch the nose back down again, you would move the control wheel forward. This lowers the elevator into the wind and raises the tail. And when the tail goes up, the nose goes down. The ailerons are those movable surfaces near each wingtip. They are also controlled by the control wheel in the cockpit. Now, when you move the control wheel left and right, it alternately moves the ailerons up and down. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh no, I broke the airplane. But no, that's not the case. Really, that's how the airplane was designed. The ailerons are what you use to make the airplane roll into or out of a bank. When you rotate the control wheel to the left aileron moves up and the right aileron moves down. This raises the right wing and lowers the left wing and rolls the airplane into a bank to the left. Now, when you rotate the wheel to the right aileron moves up and the left aileron moves down. This rolls the airplane into a bank to the right. When you bank the airplane, you tilt some of the lift to the side. And it's that sideways lift that makes the airplane turn. So now you know that putting an airplane into a bank makes a turn. And you know that you can use ailerons to put the airplane into a bank. So, what do you use the rudder for? You use the rudder to keep the nose from yawing in the wrong direction when you stick an aileron down into the wind to bank the airplane. Think about what happens when you stick your hand out of your car window. Two things can happen. One, you can get a ticket. More specifically, when you rotate your hand so the palm is at a small angle to the wind, the same force that moves your hand up also moves it back. When an aileron is deflected downward into the wind, the same force that moves the wing up also moves it back, just like your hand. You can use rudder to keep the wing with the down aileron from moving back. The rudder pedals on the floor move the rudder to the left and right. Now, when you step on the left rudder pedal, the rudder moves to the left, and so does the nose of the airplane. This is referred to as yawing the nose to the left. Stepping on the right rudder pedal deflects the rudder to the right and yaws the nose of the airplane to the right. Something that most people do not think of as a flight control is the power. It's controlled by the throttle on the lower part of the instrument panel. To increase the power, push the throttle in. You will hear the engine RPM increase, and you can even see it on the tachometer. Now this makes the airplane go faster or climb. Pull the throttle back to decrease the power and RPM. Now you know how the controls of an airplane work. The real trick is making the airplane do what you want it to do.
You know, every time I get into the cockpit of an airplane and buckle up for a flight, I still feel that same thrill of expectation that I felt on my first flying lesson. That's one of the wonderful things about flying. It gives you a sense of excitement that stays with you through the years. Now, Now, the first thing you and I need to do is make sure our seats are adjusted and our belts are adjusted so that we can properly reach the controls, and each of us can do that, so we're in good shape. Notice there's 2 doors. To get out of the door, all you have to do is raise this lever. To get out of your seatbelt, just raise the lever on your seatbelt. Now, I'm going to go through the checklist, and you follow me through.
You'll be doing
Before
this
starting
today
engine,
with your
pre-flight inspection is complete. Passenger briefing is complete. Okay, now we're ready to start the engine.
It takes a lot more than what he does right now.
Clear. All right, we're ready to taxi. I'll get the airplane started, and when we get on a straight taxiway, I'll hand it off to you. A little power to get going here. It's really pretty easy to taxi an airplane. The trick is you do it with your feet. Step on the left rudder pedal and the airplane will turn to the left. Step on the right rudder pedal and the airplane will turn to the right. Now, the thing that really troubles people about this is the wheel doesn't have anything to do with it. You can move the wheel anywhere you want and it doesn't have any effect on the steering. One other surprise about taxiing an airplane is the brakes. The brakes are over the top of the rudder pedal. Step over the top and press on the top of the right pedal and you get right brake. Press on the top of the left pedal and you get left brake.
Each main gear has
Press on
its
the
own
top of
brake
both
system.
of them and you get both wheels. Okay, I'll maneuver us into the run-up area and we can go through the checklist together. Okay, before takeoff checklist, parking brake, set, passenger seat backs secure in the upright position. Okay, we're cleared for takeoff, so I'm going to check for traffic on final to make sure we don't pull in front of somebody.
Notice we have a
Okay, now
white
what
arrow
to do
there
this
as we're going on
takeoff,
to
you
the
can follow
runway.
through lightly if you want with your hands and feet on the controls, and I'll tell you what I'm doing so you can feel what's happening here.
Center line is marked in white.
Okay, we're in position. I'm going to smoothly add power to full throttle. Quick check of oil pressure and RPM. Everything looks good. Now we steer with our feet, so we're still doing that, steering with the feet. And as the controls become effective, I add a little back pressure on the control wheel and establish the aircraft in a climb attitude. And the aircraft will fly itself off the ground, and we are airborne.
Now here's one maneuver we can't do. Can't stop. So that's kind of what we're going to learn about today. The controls of the airplane. Rudder, aileron, and elevator. Elevator, what does an elevator do in building? It goes up and down, right?
Yeah.
So you can remember what the rudder does. The elevator does on the airplane. It makes the airplane go up or down. Okay? Okay. Ailerons are out on the wingtips. Okay, they're sitting out here.
That's for banking.
Right. So if we want to turn to the left, we want the left wing to go down. So we rotate to the left. That picks this one up. Air pushing on that pushes down. This one on this side goes down. Air pushing on that goes like this. Okay. Now there's one problem happens here. And that is that the airplane is not, the controls are not coordinated. So the doggone nose of the airplane wants to go this way away from the, go this way away from the turn. To prevent that, we have to add rudder, called coordinating the rudder and aileron together. So we actually don't turn the airplane with a rudder, we turn the airplane with the ailerons, and we keep the nose going in the direction of the turn, because the down aileron over here has a lot more drag, so it's out here pulling back on that wing and it wants to take the nose away from the turn. That's why we have to do that. So if you just, you could turn just with ailerons, but it would be kind of uncomfortable. Or you could turn just with rudder, but again, it's kind of uncomfortable. But it's nice and smooth. The other thing is that you ride bicycles, I'm sure. Right. You drive cars? You don't drive cars. Okay, if you're on a flat road, okay, with your bicycle, and you're going 10 or 15 miles an hour, and you start up a hill, what do you have to do to maintain 10 or 15 miles an hour?
Speed up.
You have to pedal harder, right? So we would give the airplane more power, which would be like pedaling harder, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Putting more energy in it. So the airplane would slow up if we didn't add power. But because we had power, we can maintain that speed up to a point. Because we can make this hill so steep that the airplane runs out of energy, just like you. If you were pedaling up a hill and it got steeper and steeper,
You wouldn't be able to make it.
pretty soon you're off the side of the bicycle pushing, right?
Yeah.
So you run out of ability. Okay, so when the airplane can no longer climb and it gets so slow that it's not generating enough lift on the wings, it does what we call stalls. S-T-A-L-L. Sounds like a terrible word, but it really isn't. It has nothing to do with the engine stalling. It has to do with the airplane not being able to generate enough lift. So when that happens, the nose tends to pitch up a little bit and then down, and if we don't break that stall by lowering the nose a little bit with the elevator, it would continue in a stall position. So you're going to learn about those conditions
So
today.
you'd be kind of like just stalling like
Right.
that. Yeah. It's not your lift's too high and you just kind of fall.
Well, it actually stalls nose down. And
Does it really? Yeah.
so if you just relax the elevator, it'll come right out of the stall.
Mhm.
So you're not going to do any stalls today, but you will do turns, level flight, and climbs and descents, okay? So you're going to learn about all those things when you go out there to fly.
There's more room in this six, but it's a single seater.
So when you
Let's
take,
start off by taking a look at the airplane.
Your flight's going to be about 30 or 40 minutes long, and they'll probably take you out over the ocean. A lot of stuff to see out there. Queen Mary's down there. You'll see the oil islands where you'll see tankers coming in and out of the harbor. You can tell if a tanker's full of fuel because it's sitting way down in the water. If it's empty, it's much higher in the water.
I think it's the same guy that
And this is our facility,
Right. That's gonna happen.
and that's pretty much the story.
That'd be my dream.
Enjoy your flight.
That's not.
So what are you going to learn about today?
The elevator, the rudder, and decrease and increase.
Ailerons. Controls the airplane. How you control the airplane in the air. So see, I've taught you a little bit already on the ground about what you're going to be doing in the air.
Yeah.
If we wait and just went out and jumped in the airplane and took off,
I would know what to do.
right. So we'd spend a lot more time on the ground than we used to. But this way you make better progress. A private pilot today will know more about flying and about what makes an airplane fly than a commercial pilot did when they got their first license 20 years ago. Really, they really will. Particularly in the area of weather, use of radios, communications. They just know a lot more. And as a result, our safety record in the aviation training business is much, much better than it used to be, which is a good thing. A good thing.
so when you go to pitch it, you have to use your, say you pitch it to the left,
Right, roll
you
it
have
to
to
the
use your left rotor at the same time.
left rudder. Right.
Rudder, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
So that rudder helps you to turn with it.
you're
So when
right.
you pitch it to the right, you use your right rudder.
Yeah.
When you start to ascent, so when he said that you start to ascent, you're pushing the throttle full throttle all the way. When you're in the air, is it full throttle?
No,
Still?
we reduce the throttle.
Okay, after you ascent. So if you want to ascent again, you start putting on the throttle again.
Right. If we wanted to descend, we reduce power.
Reduce power, same thing as if you need to land. You
Right.
kind of almost no throttle at all,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Eventually, that's where you get to. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what you're going to do.
Alright.
Pretty exciting. Pretty exciting.
Yeah.
You'll have a blast. It is so much fun. I have 19,000 hours of flying.
Wow.
And I taught hundreds of people to learn to fly. It is more fun today than it was when I first. It is so exciting. I love it. I love it. I'm 84 years old, still work full time, and I'm going to work full time if they have to haul me down here in the back of an ambulance. Okay. So we're going to take you around now and show you a little bit about what we do here. It's a little bit different than it was when you were.
Just a little bit.
Okay. You want to grab a camera
Yeah,
and give them a tour?
sure.
Take them out. The instructor will meet you out there and walk you around the airplane, show you a little bit about the controls of the airplane. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I'll meet you guys out there in a minute. Kronk is gonna
This
take
is
you through the
great.
sim room and everything. I'm Frank, by the way.
Frank, Jason, nice to
Jason,
meet you.
nice to meet you.
By the way, it's
Steve.
not his
And
last
Steve.
name. His last name
Good to see you,
is
Jason.
It's not Frank, by the way.
All right, I'll meet you out there in a second.
Hey, thank you. Nice job.
Okay.
Thank you.
So she's going to give you a little tour, and then you'll go out there, we'll wind up out there.
Alright guys, so follow me. So we'll take a look at the classroom first. So this
How are
is
you
the
today?
classroom. This is our ground school, and this is also where we have pilot debriefs. So after every lesson, you'll come back in here. You're the one going up on the lesson, right? So yeah, after every lesson, you'll come back in here and you'll debrief with your flight instructor. So you'll go over all the things you did well and you didn't do so well. And then we have some teaching aids up here. So if you look at that big chart over there, that's for airspace. Los Angeles is the busiest airspace in the world, and it's because of Los Angeles and the big jets that fly in. So basically, they want to separate the small airplanes from the big airplanes. So we have it divided into 5 different airspaces: Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, and Golf. So 6, actually 6. And then the type of airspace we're in is Delta airspace. So it's still controlled, but we don't have as many restrictions as a Charlie or a Bravo airspace would. And LAX is a Bravo, so you have a few more restrictions there.
Well, bigger aircraft, right?
Yeah. And then if you look at this one right here, that's for the runway markings. So you can kind of see the first 3 strips are the 500 feet zone. So you kind of want to know how long the runway is, and you kind of want to decide before you land where you want to land. That way you can make sure you land within the allotted space and you don't go off the end of the runway. You generally want to aim for the numbers or the beginning part of the runway, so that way even if you miss your point, you still have the rest of the runway to make it in. But the farther your landing point is, the harder it is to make it down, and there's a higher chance you may float too. So we also have some illusions up here. So that mainly happens when you're flying solely by reference to instruments. So the big airliners, they fly in class alpha airspace. So that's really, really high up there, like 18,000 feet and higher. So up there, if you're in the clouds, it's very easy to fall into these illusions. So Coriolis illusion, graveyard spiral. So basically when you're making abrupt power changes, or if you're making steep banks and turns, you may start to feel different illusions, like you're tumbling or that you're falling backwards. So you want to make sure that you rely on your instruments, in instrument flying, not VFR flying, so you don't fall into these illusions. Today, you're doing a VFR flight, so you want to make sure your eyes are outside.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you're enjoying the view. So we also have a diagram up there about the semicircular canals. Basically all the fluids in your head. So that's kind of up there to show you how you don't want to fly when you're sick, because your fluids get all messed up, and it's easy to, it's harder to fly because it's kind of annoying to have your head all clogged up and then you're flying and doing turns and stuff, and it just makes for an uncomfortable day.
With a fluid buildup, can you pass out or anything like that?
Well, it depends on how sick you are. I haven't heard of anyone passing out, but it is possible to just feel really uncomfortable, or your head just gets really clogged up.
Yeah.
And that, you can't hear, or one of your ears pops and it really hurts. So we kind of recommend not flying when you're too sick.
Yeah.
So you can kind of avoid that.
Okay.
All right, guys, do you have any questions? Okay. So let's take a look at the sim. it looks like we have the G1000 turned on. So this is the G1000 simulator. This is my favorite one because it looks exactly like how it does in the airplane. Like you saw in the video, you have your throttle and your mixture, and then down there you have your rudder pedals, and then the tops are the brakes. So it's pretty realistic based on how the airplane is set up. And also the navigation systems are exactly like how it is in the plane. So the reason why the simulator is so cool is because you can save a lot of money on working on your G1000 checkout, which is basically you have to get acclimated with the new systems to fly the plane. So it's the same plane. It's still a 172. It's just these screens are the navigation equipment is a little different. So this runs for $75 an hour, but you can work in here and stay in as long as you want and make sure you master all these buttons before you get in the plane. So as long as you know how to fly the plane and you know how to press these buttons, you'll be fine. And you'll also save a lot of money. So this is the instructor computer here. So your instructor can move you around to different places. He or she can also put you in different types of weather and different winds and different cloud levels. So you can kind of work on that. And then if it gets too tough, you can always pause it, unlike the airplane where you still have to fly through it. But getting that practice is really, really good in case it does happen to you in the airplane. So we got the Frask 132. So if you want to go ahead and have a seat, I can go over all the instruments with you.
With the throttle and the mixture, you have to put mixture in the throttle.
Yeah, well, when you start the airplane, you want to make sure your mixture full rich. Basically, the mixture control you can kind of play around with in the throttle too. It just depends on the density, altitude, and the type of altitude
So when
you're
you
at.
get higher up, you need a little more mixture.
You lean out the mixture.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. When you start to fill it in the engine, you know that you got to pull the mixture out just a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
When you see that RPM drop, that's when you go mixture rich again.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we have the instruments up here. The plane you're going up in is going to have this type of panel. So this type of panel is in most airplanes, especially pre-2005, I believe. So if you know how to fly these, you can pretty much fly, you can fly a lot of airplanes. And also learning to fly these is a really nice way to learn how to fly basically. So this makes you a really good pilot because you won't be relying on GPS, and you'll actually have to use these VORs and things like that so you can kind of pinpoint where you are. The instructor computer here, just like that one, can put you in different weather conditions, different cloud levels, and your instructor can also move you around to different airports. So it's pretty cool. Down there you have the rudder pedals and the brakes on the top. The cool thing about this simulator is that it's a multi-engine setup too. So that's why you have these two throttles, these two manifold pressures, and these two mixtures. So we get a lot of people who want to interview for jobs for airlines. They come in here and use a simulator. You'd be surprised, but before kind of the first step to getting a job at an airline is they put you in a simulator and they make sure you know how to fly this and know how to fly instrument flight rules with this. So the simulator.
This is a different plane. This is Fresca 132P. And this is what we're flying today is 172.
Yes. Yeah. So the Frask 132, the type of airplane, the type of instruments it has is the same thing as the 172. So it's just a different company that makes this, and the engine setup is going to be a little bit different, or the instrument setup. All right, guys. So
It's good to know different planes if you're going to be.
yeah, I'll make sure you have a lot of experience.
Depends on which one you're in, though.
Type formation
So
of
we'll take
moving
a look at
parts.
the pilot supply shop and then we'll head out.
You guys have, I'll see you again.
So this is the pilot supply shop. We have some charts up here. The terminal chart is actually unique to only busy airspace areas. So as you can see, we have one for LA, we have one for Las Vegas. So basically where there's a lot of airport traffic, that's when we have terminal charts. Every place has a sectional chart though. every major city anyways. And the main difference is that terminal charts show things in more detail, and it also shows more obstacles, more airborne points, more ground reference points. So it just shows everything in more detail. The sectional chart, it shows a few things, not as much detail as the terminal chart, but it still shows you where airspace is, where airports are, and things like that. Let's pull up the tech chart. I'll kind of show you your route for today. Alright, so here's Fullerton Airport right here. And then I think Frank's going to take you over the water because it's going to be cooler over there. So he's probably going to take you out over here over Los Alamitos Air Force Base. You guys will fly out this way towards the Queen Mary. You guys will kind of do a big loop around like that and come back to Fullerton. So on your way back, you'll see Knott's Berry Farm, Los Alamitos Airport, Long Beach Airport, and if you guys are high enough, you may even be able to see Disneyland. But you'll have to really look out for that because it's kind of hidden in between a couple of things. Yeah.
Cool.
So
Is this like the main flight for the Cessnas and stuff coming in?
these are actually Victor Airways, and these are just jet routes.
Oh,
So these are common routes that jets fly into LAX and things like that. It's a common routing.
oh, I see.
Yeah. So once you decide to start flying, you'll get to know these charts pretty well. All right. So Frank's gonna take you up. We'll go outside and get your picture, and you guys will be off.
You have to go to the bathroom.
You guys have to use your restroom or get some water.
No, I think it's good.
Okay.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. See you later. Have a good one. I'll try to keep the plane in one piece.
That would be helpful.
Not yet.
I see the little part right there.
Is this your first time in a small airplane?
Yeah.
All right. And you used to fly, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You never flew with your grandpa? Okay.
Yeah. It was like 43 years ago.
Well, this is the 172, which is kind of the standard trainer of the day. We do have 152 still, which is kind of its predecessor. And really stable airplane, pretty easy to fly. You know, wants to fly. You get it up to a high enough speed, it'll stay in the air for you. You'll be flying for part of the flight, most of the flight actually. I'll get us off the ground. We'll get up to about 1,000 feet or so. Make some radio calls, and then we'll start handing you over the controls and kind of teaching you how to maneuver the plane and everything. Bianca's going to take a picture of you, and then we'll kind of go over the flight control surfaces and talk about what we're going to be moving around and stuff, and we'll get going. Sound good?
Sound good.
All right. Let her take a picture of you.
Kind of stand up here by the strut. We'll get a good picture of you. Make your certificate. All right. 1, 2, 3.
Try to avoid messing around with the propeller unless you know the aircraft's safe. I've already checked it. I was actually the last one to fly it too, so I know it's safe and everything, but you know, it's like playing with a loaded gun. You just stay away from it if you can. We'll walk over this way because you're going to be in the pilot seat, so we're going to have you on this side here. We're going to talk about the flight controls a little bit. I'm just going to open the door here so we can see inside also. It's right here, it's the aileron. I know you saw this on the video a little bit. If you look,
So you turn when you're in midair, right?
right, so it helps us to roll, okay? See the yoke in there? Okay, that's like our steering wheel.
Oh, I get it.
So they're connected. So if I turn the yoke to the left,
It'll turn that.
it'll put it up, and that one goes down. It changes the aerodynamics of the wing, causes more lift on the other wing actually, and makes the airplane roll to the left. Okay, and vice versa. All right,
Yeah.
makes sense? These are the flaps. Flaps also help us in flight. They change the shape of the airfoil.
Did they move at all or no?
Yeah, they're down all the way right now because I was inspecting them. During flight, they'll be up and they'll be nice and flush with this. But right now they're down just for inspection. On landing, they'll be down like this also. They help create more lift and a little bit of drag, help us to approach our landing at a slower speed, lower nose pitch attitude, we can see better, have more control, things like that. Okay. And then the empennage, right? They call the empennage on the video, make you sound smart. This has 2 flight control surfaces on it, the elevator and the rudder. So again, if you see that yoke in there, when I move the elevator,
Oh,
it
it
moves,
goes
right?
back.
Yeah, so let's say we want to pitch up, pull back on that yoke, elevator is going to come up. So that'll lift the nose forward. This is a wing also, but it pulls down most of the time. So when I change the shape of it, I make it more of an extreme camber underneath. It's going to pull the tail down, pitching our nose up. And the opposite, when you push the nose forward, we've made the curved surface on the top, it lowers the nose, you pitch down. Okay. This is the rudder. Yeah, you can't really see the rudder pedals move. They actually won't move right now because the nose wheel is kind of forcing it to stay. But the rudder controls our yawing, okay? How the airplane pivots, okay? Just like a boat. So if you were to turn the wheel on a boat, it would kind of skid and then it would turn, right? As you're planing. Same thing happens with the rudder. It's not the most efficient flight control surface, but it has very good supporting characteristics at certain times of flight. And in a slow flight situation or a stall, it'll actually become our primary control for turning. So ailerons lose their effectiveness when we use rudder. Today I'll mostly be controlling the rudder. Won't need it a ton, but I'll help you out with coordinating the flight controls. The rudder's something you learn second or third flight, start getting into controlling and coordinating the airplane.
When you actually do it off the ground like you're doing today.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you do that, that's when you learn that rudder stuff.
Well, I mean, the first lesson after the demo flight's usually a ground lesson. You learn how to pre-flight and do all that stuff. Then the next one after that's usually flight. Start learning all the different flight controls and trim and all that stuff. So, yeah. All right, who's going with us today? You are? Okay. I'm going to do a little bit of a safety brief, and we'll jump in the plane and we'll get going. So you guys can come over here, and I'm just going to walk you through a couple things. You're probably going to sit behind me.
Okay.
You're going to be in the pilot seat here. So seatbelt, it's pretty easy, just like a car seatbelt here.
Mm-hmm.
Push it in, comes out. This is an airbag actually right here. So it's hot and annoying, but it's there.
In case of a crash, it does it.
Yeah, it goes in front of you. I guess they work really well. I don't know. I wouldn't want to know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to know either.
The window opens and closes. You can open it anytime in flight that we're below a certain speed. We won't be above that speed, so don't worry about it. It's just easy to latch and unlatch. It is spring loaded, so you kind of release it gently. This handle right here is going to close and lock the door. When the door locks, it pushes that little button, and it goes all the way down. Now, if you want to get out, you just flip the handle all the way up and back. It'll actually pop the door out a little bit. So, when you hop in, I'll have you try it out. Give it a shot. Now, the seat, I have it up all the way right now. It's probably in a good position. You can roll it forward and back. You'll actually sit pretty far forward, almost awkwardly far forward. Yeah, so you can reach everything. Exactly. There's a handle right here. When you get in, I'll help you out, but there's a handle right here to help slide it. And then up here under the dash, there's a handle you can grab onto, not this plastic piece. But there's a little rubberized handle back there that you can pull yourself forward if you need it. Okay? I'm going to get you in there, and then like I said, you're going to come in on my side. Be behind me, probably. So, use this step right there to hop in there. And we'll get you all set up. Okay, I'm just going to put this here. So, in between your legs there, underneath the seat, is the handle. So reach down there. It's pretty close. Feel that? So slide forward. Put your feet up on the pedals. See how you can't reach? So come even more forward. You're probably going to be almost all the way forward. There you go. Now you should be able to push the pedals all the way to the floor. Okay, remember in the video, the pedals did two things. They turn you on the ground and then in the air, and then they also and you can brake with them.
Yeah.
So the top of the pedal is the brake. If you keep your feet on the ground, yeah, feel that? If you keep your feet on the ground, you just put your feet on that kind of lip. Go ahead and put your heel on the ground. There you go. Now you can push it without depressing the brake. So if you roll your toe forward, that's the brake, and if you just push on the bottom of the pedal, that's the rudder and the nose wheel steering. It'll make more sense as we're doing it. Your headset here, you got 2 volume controls, one on each side. You want the mic here pretty close to your lips so that you can transmit over it. It'll only pick up your voice when you're talking loud enough and close enough to the mic. Otherwise, it'll just be quiet. If you can't hear yourself, we can't hear you. So, yeah. Go ahead and put your seatbelt on first. You can leave that headset off for a while until after we get the engine started and everything. You just clip in right there. Cool. All right, we'll get you in on the other side. I just want you to practice this real quick. Go and flip that handle, that black handle, all the way forward. That's locked. Now, if you flip it up and all the way back,
That's unlocked.
no, that's locked. See. Now flip the handle all the way up and back. There you go. It actually pops out. There you go. Good. All right, we'll go hop in. First one out of the airplane. I know you're the last one in and you're in the back. It's actually easier for me to let you out before I get out.
Okay.
So I would let you out first, and then I would hop out after you.
You just pull forward, lift your seat, and it'll fly out, right?
Pretty much. And if we have to exit in case of emergency, always go towards the tail. You don't want to go towards the prop, especially if the engine's still running.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
All right. Go ahead and hop in there. You can use that. I guess we'll be seeing you in a little bit, huh?
Okay. Have fun up there.
Sure will. Go ahead and put your seatbelt on first. These are kind of funny because they ratchet. There we go. And then you just clip it in there. And it's going to ratchet down on you. It's kind of annoying, but that's how it works. Is that enough? You can go ahead and go all the way down with it. I'm just going to slide my seat back a couple inches here, and then I'm going to go back further when I hop in. But it'll be further forward than this when we're actually flying. You'll have plenty of room. Alright.
Feels like one of those gun headsets when you put it on, like your legs going up.
Yeah, you want to deaden the noise because it's pretty loud in here. Well, I'll have you pull your headset off once we're flying and you'll see. Alright, I'm going to come back a little bit. Comfortable and everything?
Yeah.
You can throw your hat in the back if you want. If you don't want to keep that on your lap. Okay, I'm going to finish up a little safety briefing here.
Yep.
And then I'll be going through the checklist and everything.
I noticed she doing a bunch of checklists over there, or did you already?
Yeah, I already took care of that.
Okay.
Yep.
So you have to do that every time before you fly?
Every flight. That's when you catch anything that might go wrong.
Is this like a two-man steering or what?
Yep. They're interconnected. So I have control and you have control.
Cool.
All right. I'm
That's it.
shutting the door. Have a good one. All right. Clear prop.
Well,
That
what do you
was
think?
fun.
Was it
It was a good experience. I loved it, and it gave me some skill.
scary?
It wasn't scary.
Was it bumpy or was it smooth?
It
Wasn't scared at all.
wasn't that bad.
Okay, would you ever jump out of a plane?
Yeah.
Kind of like you to fill one of these out so that you know, of course, if you're up in Victorville, it's kind of hard to come down here to do flight training. But you can fill this out for us if you'd like.
Hi, Brad. This is Jason. I'm sorry I missed your call. I was up in
Name's
the
Frank, right?
Yeah.
That was fun.
It's better in here. It's cooler. Wrong one. I guess I can do this one.
Yeah, we're all in. We made it. That was pretty cool. It was cool for one to go like that.
Where'd you go?
We went all the way around from all the way over by Catalina.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went around to over there by Knots, and we went back to over here.
Yeah. We went down off the coast.
Took him over point for a minute.
Yeah. Okay, basically, if you're looking at getting into flight training, you know, it costs money. If you did the program in a Cessna 152, which is a two-place airplane, and you took 65 hours of flight time to do it, by the time you finish with your instructor and everything, you'd have about $12,000 in the program, plus about another $1,400 in costs for testing and this type of thing. So that's kind of where the costs go. The airplane rates. Cessna 152 is $104 an hour. You buy in 10-hour blocks, it's $94. And the instructor rate is $15 per hour. Okay, or $52 per hour rather. So a typical lesson would cost you fly about an hour and a half. It costs you about $250. So you need to have some dollars in your pocket when you start. Otherwise, if you start and stop, the costs go higher and higher because it takes you longer to learn how to fly. Most people, we should try to see them a couple times a week, two flights a week to make good progress. But I imagine you could probably, you might find somebody out at Victorville, or Apple Valley, that would be doing training out there. It probably wouldn't cost you as much out there per hour. And they don't have all the requirements that we have because we have a lot of airspace we have to work with. And so it'll be a simpler process out there.
Yeah.
Besides, you're not here, you're out there. So that's where you live, out there, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the story. Okay?
Yeah.
Any questions?
Not really.
Okay.
That was a fun experience.
Good. That's what it's for.
Well, I thought it was great. A little scared at the beginning, not knowing, but once you got up there, it was so smooth and so peaceful. It was almost like you want to do it every day.
It was easy to fly that thing. It felt like it was like
So would you do it again?
so easy. Yeah.
Would you recommend it to your friends?
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe next time we go fly over Catalina, that'd be great.
That'd be great.
And then we have to get like really close to the water.
Next time you won't need an instructor, right? I mean, J'Anthony will just
Teach you how to do
take
it.
you up there.
Yeah, he'll take us.
Mm-hmm.
Might not get back in one piece yet, but he'll take us there.
Yeah.
That was pretty fun. He did a good job. Especially when he let him fly the plane. It wasn't, he didn't jerk it or nothing. It was real smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was where J'Anthony pitched the plane,
And I was
almost
pitching
like
it.
this, and I'm like, oh no, J'Anthony, but he got it back and it was fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was putting it to the right where the guy was facing. He was like, "Oh, don't do this, don't do this." And
Yeah, so he was flying the airplane. And the plane started tipping to where the instructor was on his side. Because I know I had a couple egg burritos this morning, but I'm not that heavy, so let's just get the plane back to where it should be.
yeah.
It was pitched pretty well.
And I
wasn't
put
it?
it right back.
Yeah, it was great. Too bad we couldn't do that, like fly to work or school. That'd be
I know,
cool.
right? That took like 5 minutes for us to get past all the way over there to Long Beach.
Yeah.
Imagine how much it would take during traffic. Tons of minutes.
Maybe land on the football field right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
drop you off, take off. Yeah, but overall it was